totally got the idea regarding what I wanted to ask you. The curiosity element, the no pressure element, the drive coming from within, no deadlines to meet, no metrics to be graded on, and no comparisons. So, this is perhaps one of the secret sauce of homeschooling, which helps unlock the inner genius of the child, which somehow is destroyed in the current education system because everything is opposite to what you have said that is happening in the current education system. My question over here comes from more of practicality. Practicality with regards to we are talking about 1 decade back in time when you started all of this. How well you were supported with institutions providing homeschooling structure, or maybe some online courses, some mentors over there who could give you the structure around homeschooling. And with that, I have a follow-up question. What exactly is homeschooling? Like, if I as a parent want to know about homeschooling, how would you define it in maybe 3 simple things? What it is, why it is important, and how to handle it. So what is your approach towards explaining it to the people regarding what homeschooling actually is?
So here, homeschooling as a technical term is when you're taking all of your education from your home. And another term that I use simultaneously is self-schooling. So self-schooling was that I was learning whatever that I, as myself, wanted to learn. Now, as of institutions, I don't think there were a lot of options there. Like, there wasn't a system precisely for homeschooling in India. There was a system for open schooling, and that option is usually taken by kids who are like either in defense families that they have to travel a lot so they can't change schools all the time, or it was done by kids who were sort of ill and they couldn't like go to regular school, or it would be people who like didn't have passing marks or anything. So this was that dark area of open schooling. Now I believe after 2020, after we started with online learning, people have been realizing that okay, education can be done from here as well. That I think that's when all of the systems started to revamp themselves. So like let's say I did my open schooling from NIOS, National Institute of Open Schooling. Back then, I don't think there were as many resources as there are now. So along with the awareness, they're also adding more ways on how I can enrich my homeschooling journey. Let's say, and one of the really like great plus points is that I don't have to be tied to a certain set of streams. कि PCM करना है, PCB करना है. You can actually choose the subjects that you like. So obviously I didn't choose maths or science. I chose, let's say I was really interested into psychology. I was interested into business studies. Now some of these subjects are like total opposites. You can't find them in a single stream. But you've got the freedom. And here in curiosity, coming back to what you asked me earlier, I think the one thing parents and educators can do is give kids the option and like give them that much space to explore what they like. Let's say if I was interested into healing, so I got those books. My parents provided me with the books, with the courses, with YouTube videos, whatever that I needed to learn that. If I clicked with that, it's fine. If I needed to learn something else, I constantly got some resources to figure out what is my expertise. What is that one topic that I really, really love doing? So just like that, I was really interested into crystals. I read all the books that I could about that. I was interested into manifestation, law of attraction. Now, all of this happened was because A, I got the options. B, I got the time to give to those options. And C, because my parents and my environment was supporting me to do that. Now, sometimes I see so many kids, they're such great art students. You look at one sketch of theirs and it's like a professional's art. And yet, because family में सब लोगों ने PCM लिया या family में सब लोगों ने medical किया है, they have to like lock away their talents and then follow that. But imagine कि अगर उनको पता है, that's on a person knowing what subject that they like. उन्हीं को अलाउ नहीं किया जाता, तो जिसको पता ही नहीं है उसको कहाँ अलाउ कर रहा है कोई.
Wow. So you mean to say that the students who are showing obvious traits
हाँ.
of certain geniuses, so to speak, maybe sketching or something, they are not having proper channels for letting them explore that. Then where is the possibility of letting teachers and parents pull that out of the children who are not actually showing those traits? So maybe our education system is not designed for that kind of an exploration per se. And I could actually feel that in your case, when we talk about homeschooling, it is perhaps a buffet of options we have, and we can pick and choose as per our own liking, and then we can proceed ahead with which fits our choices. Over here, I would like to ask you then, how do you grade and standardize things in homeschooling? Because my mind is properly tuned with the conventional education system, where we have a class 10th board exam, we have a class 12th board exam, and then you get a good college or you don't get a good college, you go for graduation, then post graduation, and maybe PhD. So this is the track I am well versed with. What is the track of homeschooling?
It's the same track in terms of academics.
Hmm.
Like, I was homeschooling, I was enrolled with the National Institute of Open Schooling. I gave my 10th exams, like secondary and senior secondary. And obviously it's needed, like you need a mark sheet. Even if you go for some government work, you would need that. And other than that, point one, all of that is valid in every college and in every university. So even if now, at this point, I want to leave what I'm doing right now, and if I want to go back to the conventional path, I still have that option.
Wow. So you mean to say that in open schooling, we do NIOS kind of a thing, National Institute of Open Schooling, and we do cover those milestones of class 10th and 12th and all these things.
Right.
Okay.
And the point is, people think that once you're starting homeschooling, you're closing some doors. The point is, there are no doors being closed. All you're doing is opening more options. So that's like a really big myth कि एक बार homeschooling शुरू कर दिया, then you won't get into your favorite college or university or job or anything. There's nothing like that. And if, as a parent, if they want to make their own system of grading and stuff, so see, my academic education, I did all of it by myself, like for academics. You can ask my father, none of my parents ever taught me anything in academics. I did that by myself because it was that easy. And because I was learning out of curiosity, so I didn't really have the pressure. I was learning on my own pace. Yet I was able to get it all completed at the same time as my peers. So I did all of that by myself. But in case a parent wants to homeschool their child, they can create their own set of like standard procedures that, okay, every week you're going to have a test or whatever the frequency that they want to keep. It's to keep the child in check, in discipline, without pressurizing them.
Great. A question that many of the parents would be having over here is, if you see two set of students, one student is carrying a heavy bag with all the books, notebooks, and is not wishing to miss even a single day of school, because this child starts having fear of missing out, that lots of content has been covered or lots of things have been covered in the school. There's so much of homework, projects, this and that. And then this child is giving class 10th examination. Is still scared to death that how will he perform in the examinations of the normal academic route. Now, if a parent who is watching this feels that their child should be homeschooled, then a common question would arise that how can somebody who is studying at home, having different alternative subjects, maybe psychology, maybe law of attraction, how would they stand in, again, I'm using the word comparison, sorry to say that, but how would this child who is totally homeschooled, appearing for the same examination of class 10th, maybe by the way, what is the board for this examination?
National Institute of Open Schooling is a board in itself.
Wow, fine. So when two children are appearing for the same examination, the class 10th, would this child who is being homeschooled have less of edge over the child who is appearing for the main from the main academic route?
Honestly, I feel like that depends on a lot of factors. If I see a normal 10th grade child, they would be quite stressed, and I mean, there's really a lot of hype and pressure for board exams. In my case, I was aware of what keeping myself calm means, or what focusing on what I know, or like I knew stuff more related to my self awareness. So that is something like that isn't exactly related to this, but it was based on my upbringing and whatever other stuff that I learned. So I can't exactly categorize homeschooled kids and normal kids, because if you're homeschooled, then you can't be categorized into one thing. The point of homeschooling is that every child is different.
Wow.
So I'm not really sure how that would work, but I believe the curriculum for NIOS is quite simpler than CBSE or the other boards. And I feel like if you're studying a subject that you like, right,
And the conventional boards are having their own curriculum.
right,
In NIOS, and the people who go for homeschooling, by the way, the idea is that every child is unique. And you let the child explore their unique abilities by virtue of their own tryst with different subjects. In conventional academics, we have certain set subjects, a certain set curriculum, and the child has to read those things and appear and graded as per those standardizations. So, again, if I want to put my child in homeschooling as a parent, what should be my mindset according to you?
I think the number one thing is you should be really prepared that at least one parent is always there for the child. Because in school, when a child is in school, they have a lot of authoritative figures, but if they're homeschooled, they would need at least one person who can focus on them full time. Else, if let's say both the parents are working or like they're busy in their own stuff, that child might feel neglected and they won't really have a direction on whatever that they're doing. Number two is, I think these are like 3 points of homeschooling that are sort of the consequences, but they aren't really, because you can figure out a solution for that, and that's exactly what I'm doing. The other second one is of discipline. Like I said, my dad had set up this rule that, okay, write 4 to 5 pages in your diary no matter what. And back then I didn't understand why, but now I understand, because at the end of the day I was going to write an exam. So imagine I didn't have the habit of writing. What would have happened? It would have been a disaster. So that was one disciplinary check. The other one is, you have to make this standard SOP for your kids to follow. And it's not to tie them down, but it's for them to follow something in case they feel lost. So that's that's the second crucial thing. And the third one is socialization, which is another, like, it's one of the major reasons why people don't really prefer homeschooling. Like when I started, people would tell me कि आप दोस्त भूल जाओगे अपने सारे, किससे बात करोगे, क्या होएगा, ये सब ऐसे बातें होती थी, ठीक है. For socialization, I believe it can be done with extracurricular activities. Homeschooling doesn't mean that you keep your kid in your house 24/7. My parents took me to courses. Let's say if you're homeschooling your child, they might have their certain talents. Let's say they love playing the guitar. You're going to take them to those classes or those contests or whatever stuff that there is. So homeschooling doesn't mean tying your child inside a house. So I feel like all of the socialization and everything, this can be managed if that parent is self-aware enough to provide that for their child.
Got it. So you mean to say that it is possible, but we need to be having the right mindset towards it. Over here, I would like to ask you, what were the challenges? What were the challenges that you must have faced individually and as a family with regards to the route of homeschooling that you took?
I think the day when we decided that we're going to start homeschooling, the day that our family members knew, a lot of stuff happened. I mean, everyone, obviously, they had their opinions to say, and it came from a place of concern only. um, people didn't understand what did this system mean. Even I didn't understand. I mean, I was just 9 years old. I just knew that school से छुट्टी मिल रही है मुझे, ठीक है. But my parents were facing the actual thing, and moreover, my mom was facing all of it. All of the relatives, they would be like, what are you doing? You're ruining the child's future. What's happening? This is not healthy. समझाओ उसके पापा को, ये करो वो करो. People had a lot to say, and it's fair that they did. Because if you don't know कहाँ से क्या चीज़ कौन सा रास्ता जा रहा है, तो this was one of the major struggles. It continues even till now. Let's say, I think till I was 16, this was a constant. People would say homeschooling, this and that. Why is this happening? People started behaving differently with me. Because they're like, some parents thought that I will be a bad influence to their kids because I wasn't going to school. And now I think of it, wow, that was really harsh of them to say that to a 9-year-old.
Did they actually say that?
People said that to my face.
Ah.
Now I think of it, some people said some really messed up stuff to me. But I think that's what makes me more emotionally aware now. That seeing all of those things, I faced that all early, so now I know how to deal with it now. All of them had something or the other to say. I saw people go away from me, lest I be a bad influence on them. कि अच्छा देवीना नहीं पढ़ रही है तो तुम भी पढ़ना बंद कर दोगे. So I used to sort of feel hurt, like why? I'm literally, कल तक मैं स्कूल जा रही थी, कल और आज में इतना क्या बदल गया है. I still am as smart as I used to be, and and the irony is I was still studying academics. It's not like I wasn't studying math, science, English, Hindi, जो भी subjects हैं. I was still doing all of it. I was just not doing it in their mold. So this happened for the first, I think, 7 years. And after that, when they started to see that I've started working or I'm having some good accomplishments. Like the first one was that I wrote a book. So people were like, okay, now I think we believe that whatever you're doing, it leads to something. Eventually it gets up to, I did my book, I did some stage talks and everything. People started thinking of me as a good person again.
So Devina, do you think that at this point in time, you must be feeling that the expectation of being validated by the society is a trap? Because I could totally assume that in the initial days of homeschooling, you still must be craving that validation. But when it came in the form of some condescending way of approach of other people towards you, then you must at one point in time have let go of that expectation of being validated. And you must be self-validating yourself. And since you had a very good support back home, so that need of validation from the society for your choices must have gone. And maybe this is one of the elements that is very much crucial, that if we are self-validating our choices, then it would be a good resource with which to move on the route of homeschooling. What do you think?
So, yeah, validation was a big point. When people would say stuff that, why are you homeschooling, why, whatever that's happening, I used to feel really bad. And then I would talk to Papa about it. And he just said this one thing once, कि बेटा एक दिन ना ये सारे जितने भी पढ़े लिखे लोग हैं ना वो आके तुझसे सीखेंगे. मेरे को तब भी कुछ इतना समझ नहीं आया. I'm like, ठीक है, okay. I knew he was supporting me and I believed it. I trusted my parents, obviously. Like, if they took a decision for their child, कुछ सोच समझ के किया होगा उन्होंने. And fast forward to today, there are some people, मतलब पापा ने तब specify किया था कि जो IIT IIM वाले लोग होंगे ना वो आके पढ़ेंगे. Today that does happen. But abhi bhi there are some things like people aren't accustomed to seeing stuff like this. अब उन्हें दिखता है कि चलो I'm just 18. But what they don't see is that when I was 9, I started focusing on these other subjects. Let's say law of attraction I learned when I was 10 or 11. I first got the concept. Then at 15, I got like certified law of attraction trainer. And I was always interested in manifestation and stuff. तो मेरे पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से देखो तो मैंने इतने साल लगाए उस कॉन्सेप्ट को पढ़ने में, इतना मैंने, मेरे पास टाइम ही टाइम था, तो मैं उसको रिसर्च ट्रायल एंड एरर से सीख रही थी. व्हाट मैनिफेस्टेशन वर्क्स, व्हाट डजंट, ये सब मैंने किया. सो फ्रॉम माई पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू आई स्पेंट अ लॉट ऑफ ईयर्स लर्निंग व्हाट आई एम डूइंग. बट फ्रॉम सम पीपल्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू दे थिंक कि 18 साल का बच्चा है, इसको क्या ही पता होगा. दिस वन टाइम समवन टेल्स मी, यू कांट बी अ कोच, यू आर जस्ट 18. कोच बनने के लिए ना लाइफ एक्सपीरियंस चाहिए होता है. I just laughed at that moment. Honestly, I didn't know what to tell them. Like, I wish you knew my story. But people will say all kinds of stuff. And I'm really grateful that मेरा upbringing ऐसा हुआ था कि I was able to be self-sufficient. Even if someone would say something, I would tell myself, तो मुझे ये belief build नहीं करना. मैंने सुन लिया, यहाँ से सुना, यहाँ से निकाल दिया. I respect you giving me your opinion. If I like it, I'll keep it. If not, thank you.
Great.
So ये चीज़ मैं अभी भी कई बार होता है ऐसे कि I get disturbed when some stuff happens, when people say something to me, when people do something to me. But I feel like this is like an ongoing journey. कि now this is going a little bit unrelated, but I feel like every kid and every person will relate to this. जितना भी आप successful बन जाओ ना, जितना भी आप अच्छा कोई भी चीज़ कर लो, it's not like you'll reach one point of success where you'll be only happy and no problems at all. It's only कि आपकी happiness का level बढ़ता जाता है और आपके problems का भी level बढ़ता जाता है. अगर मैं छोटी थी, मेरा प्रॉब्लम था कि मैं मैथ्स नहीं कर पा रही थी. अभी मैं बड़ी हूँ तो मेरा प्रॉब्लम हो सकता है कि लोगों को समझ नहीं आ रहा होगा मैं क्या कर रही हूँ. बट अलॉन्ग विद दैट आई थिंक माई कैपेसिटी टू अंडरस्टैंड सिचुएशंस इज गेटिंग बेटर.
And this throws me into a slight humor as well, that I feel that children these days and the youth who completes the normal route, class 10th, class 12th, maybe graduation and post-graduation, even after doing that, many a times we see in social media and everywhere they are saying we are still exploring that what we should do. So even after following all the normal checklist, the quote-unquote normal checklist of how the academics should work and how a child transcends through this path, even after following that, the children are clueless. So if the homeschooling can be done in the right way, with the right set of mindset and the right intentions, the child can learn what he wants to learn or she wants to learn, pick and choose the topics of liking, and go ahead in life with that, and actually know for sure that what they are doing, even if the other people are not understanding what the child is doing. In the current education system, the ironical difference is everybody else understands what the person is doing. If the person has cleared graduation, they know that that person is doing something. Many times the person himself is questioning him, why is he doing what he is doing? So in an attempt to satisfy the society and the people around, sometimes we maybe quote unquote in the current education system do things for a prolonged period of time only to realize later on that this was not the thing that we wanted to do in the first place. And what I'm getting to understand that in the homeschooling, if done the right way, without any pressure from anybody, we can have that awareness from a very initial stage as to what we want to do. Although the people around outside of our immediate home may not understand that, but at least we are happy that we are doing or we have done for a prolonged period of time what we wanted to do, and we have given our time and energy for maybe 5 years, 7 years, or a decade to something that we resonate with. So these two children who are coming out of the education system, conventional versus homeschooling, one person would be very satisfied internally for the journey that that person has taken. How would you take that?
So I'd share these 4 stages of learning. At point 1, everything that you see around yourself is data. If I'm looking at you, if I'm looking at the mic or everything, I'm just processing data. If I actually spend my effort into figuring out what that is, then it's going to be information. If I'm really, really interested into it, I'll focus more on it, and I'll start to focus on its knowledge. And if I process that knowledge enough, that turns into wisdom. Now, I may or may not have explained it that well, but data, information, knowledge, and wisdom. Now, in this checklist that society has given us, it's funny that we don't have a life manual, but we have a life checklist made by society, right? So, whatever that's happening there is, we're only processing information. ठीक है, PhD करने तक भी सिर्फ information है. If you're not interested into it, it's just information, and at the end of doing कितने भी degree कर लो, you're gonna feel hollow. At this point, I can confidently say that everything that I have learned after the age of 9, that is knowledge that I have accumulated. And from that knowledge, whatever experiences that I have been able to create, or whatever that I have been able to process with that knowledge, has given me my own level of wisdom. Let's say if even my elder brother says this sometimes, some other people have also complimented me on this, that sometimes I understand emotional situations better. It's because I got that knowledge कि ऐसे इमोशंस बनते हैं, ऐसे आपका हार्ट फ्रीक्वेंसी चलता है, ऐसे आपका माइंड सेट होता है, ये सब चीज़ होता है. उस सब को मैंने समझा, उस सब को मैंने प्रोसेस किया, उस प्रोसेसिंग से मेरे को जो विजडम मिला, उस वजह से मैं उसे और ढंग से एक्सप्लेन कर पाती हूँ. So in this checklist, now the point in homeschooling is, if I am picking up something that I want to pursue, I will focus on getting that knowledge. But if I am doing something कि मेरा मन है कि मैं आर्ट्स करूँ, बट मेरे घर वाले मुझे बोल रहे हैं कि मैं PCM करूँ, तो मैं वो सिर्फ इन्फॉर्मेशन रख रही हूँ. So I think that's like a major difference between traditional schooling and alternative. कि इन्फॉर्मेशन रखने से कुछ नहीं होएगा, बट नॉलेज ऐसा है जो आप प्रैक्टिकली अप्लाई कर सकते हो लाइफ में.
So over here, the topic of Gurukul system came up. So do you think that when the Gurukul system was there, so all the children were celebrated for their own individuality, and the coach or the teacher or the guru was the person who would see that which child is, or observe which child is performing well or enjoying what he is doing, and that particular type of education was given to that person? Are we going back to that Gurukul system by virtue of a new word like homeschooling? And the mere fact that Gurukul system was always there, and spirituality and self-awareness was always there in the Indian education system. But right now, we are not in the Indian education system as such, because this system was given by Lord Macaulay, who created this system for supporting the Industrial Revolution. So is it that we as parents may feel that our children are in the Indian education system, but actually what we are putting our children into is not the actual Indian education system, which was the Gurukul system, and which was stripped of the spirituality and the self-awareness and all those aspects, and physics, chemistry, mathematics, and all these things were loaded so that they have corporate workers and a whole chain of corporate workers ready to support the corporates in the Industrial Revolution. So how do you see that a similarity between Gurukul system and the homeschooling?
So when it comes to comparing Gurukul system with our traditional system, one thing I believe and I know for sure is that when we had gurus back then, they had really high spiritual power, and consisting, like, a part of it was also intuition. So even if they were teaching, let's say in a Gurukul, if there were 40 to 50 kids, even more than that, the guru themselves had the intuition to know which child is doing great or which child isn't. Now, like my father shared earlier, teachers are already so pressurized themselves that they can't really focus on the child. And secondly, I believe that Gurukuls were teaching about all areas of life, like spiritual education, mental education, physical education, and emotional. Meanwhile, in school right now, all we're doing is logical education. थोड़ा बहुत एक आध हमारे पीरियड्स अगर वो हो गए कि ये वाला हमारा कोऑर्डिनेटर के साथ में, या ये हमारा क्राफ्ट्स वाला, ये सब चीज़ हो गया काउंसलर के साथ में, तो उसको मान देते हैं कि वी आर ऑल्सो टेकिंग केयर ऑफ आवर चाइल्ड्स मेंटल हेल्थ. बट I truly believe this, and based on the scriptures that we have got from our Gurukul system, they were focusing on all areas of life. ऐसा तो है नहीं कि अगर आपकी गाड़ी में आपने एक ही टायर में हवा भर दी तो आपकी गाड़ी चलेगी. they were focusing on all of it. They focused on building intuition, they focused on sadhana as well. I don't think that's there in our current education system. And especially like if we talk about AI and future and everything, school focuses on intelligence. इंटेलिजेंस तो आर्टिफिशियल भी बना दिया, अब क्या करोगे? इंटेलिजेंस के ऊपर ही बेस्ड सब लोगों ने अपनी ज़िंदगी लगा दी, उसी को ही रिप्लेस कर दिया, तो इट्स फेक, इट्स फॉलिंग अपार्ट.
Wow, and as you're mentioning this, you have created a very nice awareness around how the actual education system which we had, the Gurukul system, it must have been addressing all the four dimensions, which you metaphorically said, the four tires of a car, very beautifully said, spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical, which was the holistic development. But the current education system focuses more on the mental development, that to certain aspect of the academics. And that mental aspect, which is one form of intelligence, has already been magnified in the form of artificial intelligence. So in the current day and age, when content can be created anyhow, how can we be more specific with regards to having skills that differentiate us? Because everything can be created by artificial intelligence with regards to the intelligence aspect of it.
Absolutely, yes.
So we have already outsourced intelligence to the machines. So is whatever we gain throughout the education system, the current education system, is falling apart already?
That's exactly what I mean. I mean, intelligence के ऊपर based सब कुछ किया, now it's falling apart. Now what? I believe how I shared that spiritual education मिलता था गुरुकुल्स में, that is still like a really crucial thing that we need right now. I feel like everyone's observing this. जितना ज़्यादा AI बढ़ रहा है, उतना ज़्यादा speed बढ़ रहा है. Earlier, we used to do stuff like, let's say if I had to write an essay or if I had to do a project, I could take 1 day, 2 days. Now with AI, it gets done in 2 minutes. It's messing up attention span. It's altering our brain waves to a really like fast state. तो जितना ज़्यादा फास्ट आपने किया, उतनी ज़्यादा जल्दी आपकी एनर्जी डिप्लीट होगी. एंड एनर्जी डिप्लीट हो रही है, उसका रिस्टोरेशन तो कभी सिखाया ही नहीं. बर्नआउट क्यों होता है? इफ़ अ चाइल्ड इज स्टडीइंग, इफ दे आर प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर समथिंग, इफ समवन is doing a job or anything, why are they facing burnout? Because they were never taught कि ये एनर्जी रिस्टोर कैसे होएगा. सिर्फ नींद पूरी करने से नहीं होता, या चलो होता भी है तो सब चीज़ों को बैलेंस करना. आई थिंक दिस इज समथिंग दैट शुड हैव बीन टॉट. एंड आई रियली रियली होप इफ़ यू आर समवन हु इज़ लाइक अ स्कूल ओनर और एनीवन, प्लीज़ हाथ जोड़ के विनती है, ये अपने करिकुलम में लेके आओ. दिस थिंग इज़ सो नीडेड. इंटेलिजेंस आर्टिफिशियल कर लिया, इमोशंस को आर्टिफिशियल नहीं बना सकते हो, इंट्यूशन को आर्टिफिशियल नहीं बना सकते हो. एंड we as humans, we are blessed with the sixth sense. तो उसका फ़ायदा तो उठाओ. majority population को यही नहीं पता इंट्यूशन क्या है, और like what is the sixth sense, what makes us unique from other creatures on this planet. Our focus should have been कि उसको बढ़ावा दो.
So maybe we can say that we are running after artificial intelligence, but we already have gone too far away from our spiritual intelligence, the body's intelligence, the inner intelligence, the intuition for that matter, which you said. And how nice will it be if we can have best of both the worlds? We can be connected with our spiritual intelligence, our own intuition, body, mind, wisdom, as well as leverage on the artificial intelligence, which we already have.
Right. So I believe like with AI, we're also having a lot of information and सब कुछ logically तो चल ही रहा है. इस पॉइंट पे with all of that sources, हमें अपने इंट्यूशन की एंड अपने स्टेबिलिटी की ज़्यादा ज़रूरत है. एंड ऑफ डे डिसीजन मेकिंग या फिर क्रिएशन ऑफ समथिंग, एनीथिंग लाइक दैट, उसमें योर ह्यूमन टच, योर इंट्यूटिव टच इज़ व्हाट मेक्स समथिंग अलाइव. लेट्स से इफ़ माई डैड हैड द इंट्यूशन कि ये स्कूलिंग सिस्टम ऐसा नहीं है, देयर मस्ट बी सम बेटर वे. नाउ इंट्यूशन इज़न्ट समथिंग कि कोई आत्मा ऊपर से उतर के आके आपको बताएगी कि ये करना है. इट्स जस्ट दैट लिटिल वॉइस यूल हैव इनसाइड ऑफ यू. एंड इफ we're entirely depending कि सारा हमें अपना इन्फॉर्मेशन बाहर से मिलेगा, then that little voice is gonna shut itself down. कि ठीक है, तुम्हें अपना नॉलेज वहाँ से मिल रहा है, तुम वहीं से लो. Until and unless you call upon me, I will not be there. Which I really feel like, अगर कुछ genuinely impactful बनाना है किसी को, या genuinely बाकी सब के लिए impactful छोड़ो, अपनी लाइफ को ही impactful बनाना है, अपनी लाइफ को ही कंटेंट बनाना है, then this is really needed.
Do you feel that जो आपने एक route लिया होम स्कूलिंग का, it made you connect with yourself in a deeper way, understand your emotional resilience, connect yourself spiritually, and get those resources from within rather than depending on the outside for those resources? आप अपने आप को एक बेहतर ह्यूमन बीइंग की तरह अब आप कैरी कर पाते हो कि जो आपकी चॉइसेस हैं आप उनको एंजॉय करते हो एंड दे कम फ्रॉम दैट इनर विजडम एंड इंट्यूशन. कहीं ना कहीं आप अपनी इंट्यूटिव कैपेबिलिटी से ज़्यादा कनेक्ट कर जाते हो बिकॉज यू आर नॉट इन दैट सर्वाइवल मोड ऑफ द कन्वेंशनल एजुकेशन सिस्टम जिसमें हम लोगों को प्लीज करते हुए रह जाते हैं. सो हाउ डू यू फील you to be having certain capabilities due to you being homeschooled, which may not be there in the children who are being schooled in the conventional way?
So I believe it starts from the point pressure, comparison, and the need of completing a checklist. यही 3 factor हटा दो तो I feel like you'll be closer to yourself.
What did you mention, the 3 things?
Comparison, pressure, and
The checklist?
checklist, right.
Hmm.
I mean, let's say if I'm making a program for kids, अगर चेकलिस्ट में करना होता मैं ये देखती कि लॉजिकली क्या चाहिए, क्या क्या चीज़ें होनी चाहिए सब लोग को करने के लिए. दूसरी बात, सब लोग को प्लीज़ करने के लिए. सेकेंडली, इफ़ आई हैव मेड अ सिस्टम कि जिसमें प्रेशर बहुत ज़्यादा है कि हाँ नहीं ये सारी चीज़ें कंप्लीट करनी है, जस्ट लाइक यू शेयर्ड अर्लियर कि हमें लगता है कि टाइम बहुत स्कार्स है. अब हम अगर ये सारी चीज़ें ही हटा दें तो आई कुड फोकस ऑन आस्किंग माई सेल्फ वॉट इज़ इट दैट आई हैव जिसको मैं कुछ इस तरह से क्राफ्ट कर सकूँ जो एक्चुअली हेल्पफुल हो. स्टफ दैट कनेक्ट्स विद पीपल ऑन एन इमोशनल लेवल. सो टू थिंक इमोशनली यू कांट थिंक फ्रॉम योर लॉजिकल साइड, उसके लिए इंट्यूटिव साइड से ही होना होगा. एंड एनीथिंग, इवन योर फेवरेट ब्रांड्स वो सबसे ज़्यादा फेमस इसलिए होते हैं बिकॉज दे हैव एन इमोशनल स्टोरी बिहाइंड दैम. दैट्स वाई यू कनेक्ट विद दैम. वाई इज़ नाइकी एन इमोशन? They're giving us this concept of just doing it. So they added this emotion, intuitive story to it. और अगर वो सिर्फ ही लॉजिक में करते कि हाई वी मेक शूज़, वी डू दिस एंड दैट, उतना कनेक्ट नहीं हो पाता. Then it would have just been a product, but now it's an emotion. So similarly, if I have to start a business someday, AI से मैं आइडियाज़ बनवा लूँगी, मैं लोगो, ब्रांडिंग सब कुछ करवा लूँगी, but the emotional awareness and the intuitive awareness on how can I have this product reach people's hearts. और ये तो बिजनेस की पार्ट है. अपनी ही लाइफ का अगर मैं एग्जांपल सोचूं, अगर किसी को पर्सनली अपने लिए यूज़ करना है, एज अ चाइल्ड, लेट्स से एज किड्स समटाइम्स पब्लिक स्पीकिंग का बहुत फियर रहता है कि हमें वैसे नहीं बोलना है, आगे नहीं बोलना है. वो भी लॉजिकली इसलिए होता है क्योंकि कभी चेकलिस्ट में किसी ने बोल दिया होगा कि तुम धीरे बोलते हो, तुम अटक अटक के बोलते हो. प्रेशर में हो गया कि भाई स्कूल असेंबली में तो इतने सारे बच्चे बोल रहे हैं, मुझे कभी क्यों नहीं सेलेक्ट किया. और तीसरा प्रेशर कि वाई आरंट यू लाइक अदर किड्स. बट समटाइम्स आई सी किड्स जो बहुत आर्टिस्टिकली कनेक्टेड होते हैं when they're writing poems or when they're writing stories or when they're doing arts and crafts. Those kids are comparatively more connected to themselves. Because your creative part, I still do this. Anytime I have to do an event or if I know I have to do something जिसमें मेरा logical brain चलेगा, उससे पहले I prefer doing some sort of art or some sort of creative activity which helps me first keep my intuition in check. Once that is done, then I go to the logical stuff.
Great. Awesome. And as you're mentioning this, I'm also having one more thought coming to my mind. Current education system में अगर आप 3 gradations कर लो, कि टॉप परफॉर्मर्स जो कि बहुत ज़्यादा मैट्रिक्स में अच्छे हैं, उनके मार्क्स अच्छे आ रहे हैं, एक है एवरेज और एक है अंडर परफॉर्मर्स. सो कहीं ना कहीं मे बी जो टॉप परफॉर्मर्स हैं वो अडेप्ट कर पा रहे हैं उस एजुकेशन सिस्टम में, हैंडलिंग दैट प्रेशर, हैंडलिंग दैट कंपैरिजन. जो एवरेज और अंडर परफॉर्मर्स हैं उन्हें जो पुश करा जा रहा है टू बी लाइक दी टॉप परफॉर्मर्स, वो कहीं ना कहीं उनको अपने आप से भी दूर कर रहा है, उनको स्ट्रेस में भी डाल रहा है, और उनको एक ऑलवेज बीइंग इन एन एंशियस मोड में, जहाँ पे एड्रेनलिन कॉर्टिसोल बहुत ज़्यादा है, उनकी सेल्फ इमेज डिप्लीट हो रही है, उनकी सेल्फ आइडेंटिटी इज़ गोइंग फॉर अ टॉस. सो क्या हम ये एक पैरेलल थॉट ले सकते हैं कि जो टॉप परफॉर्मेंस हैं दे मे बी गेटिंग अ गुड वैल्यू आउट ऑफ द करेंट एजुकेशन सिस्टम, बट जो एवरेज या अंडर परफॉर्मर्स हैं एज पर द मेट्रिक्स ऑफ द करेंट एजुकेशन सिस्टम, जिस तरीके से उन्होंने ग्रेड किया है, दे मे एक्चुअली चूज अ बेटर राउट फॉर देमसेल्व्स विद रिगार्ड्स टू होम स्कूलिंग एंड एक्चुअली डू वॉट दे वॉन्ट टू डू, क्योंकि मे बी उनका जो जीनियस है वो इस करंट एजुकेशन सिस्टम में एक्सप्लोर ही नहीं हो पा रहा है, और मे बी उनका जीनियस जो है वो एक टाइम मांग रहा है, एक सर्टेन स्टेट ऑफ कामनेस मांग रहा है, so that it can unfold just like a flower is in the bud form and it takes its own sweet time to blossom. So over here, before we move on to our next segment, I would like to ask you a question. A colleague of mine has a daughter, and she has been labeled to be very slow because she doesn't want to learn the subjects जो उनको academic education में, जो current academic education में मिल रहे हैं, maybe physics, chemistry, biology. उसका इंटरेस्ट बहुत है स्पिरिचुअल सब्जेक्ट्स में. एंड व्हेन आई टॉक्ड विद हर और हैड अ कॉन्वर्सेशन, बिकॉज शी, मुझे प्रीफ्रेम किया गया था कि वो बहुत हल्के बोलती हैं, शांत रहती हैं, अपने अपने में रहती हैं, और बाय द वे उसके लिए उनकी डिप्रेशन की दवाइयाँ भी चल रही हैं. राइट, सो दिस गर्ल, आई एम सिटिंग फेस टू फेस विद हर, उनकी डिप्रेशन की दवाइयाँ चल रही हैं ऑन द प्रेमिस कि वो बहुत स्लो है, अपने आप में रहती है. जब मैंने उससे बात करना शुरू करी स्पिरिचुअलिटी की, शी वॉज ऑल लिट अप. She was a different person altogether. वो इतना ज़्यादा मैंने उसके अंदर एनर्जी, एंथुजियाज्म, दैट ड्राइव देखी. देन आई टोल्ड द पेरेंट्स कि आप बोल रहे हो कि बच्चा बहुत शांत रहता है. देन द मदर टोल्ड मी कि भैया वो जो है असाइनमेंट्स पूरे नहीं करती, वो चैप्टर्स नहीं पढ़ रही है, मैम ने बोला है कि बहुत स्लो है. सो द पेरेंट्स क्विकली जंप इन टू बिलीविंग दैट देयर चाइल्ड इज समवॉट नॉट नॉर्मल एज पर देयर डेफिनेशन ऑफ नॉर्मल. एंड इफ दैट, जो हमारी डेफिनेशन ऑफ एक नॉर्मल जो बन गई है, हमारी डेफिनेशन ऑफ नॉर्मल जो बन गई है कि अगर मार्क्स ला रहे हो, क्लास में एक्टिव हो, एक्स्ट्रा करिकुलर कर रहे हो, तभी तुम एक्टिव बच्चे हो, नॉर्मल हो. अगर कोई और बच्चा किसी और चीज़ में अच्छा है, हम उसे बहुत जल्दी लेबल कर देते हैं एज एबनॉर्मल, और हम उसकी दवाइयाँ चला देते हैं, साइकेट्रिस्ट के पास लेके जाते हैं, एंड अनजुडिशियसली हम एंटी डिप्रेसेंट्स पे डाल देते हैं जो ज़्यादा हार्म कर रही होंगी एज़ कम्पेयर टू अगर वो बच्चा कुछ भी मेडिकेशंस पे ना रहता. सो द मदर आस्क्ड मी कि अगर हमें कुछ ऑल्टरनेटिवली करवाना है, और हमने माना है कि हाँ करंट एजुकेशन सिस्टम के लिए वो नहीं बनी है, स्टिल देयर वाज अ टोन ऑफ शी बीइंग नॉट नॉर्मल, कि अगर वो नहीं प्रेशर ले पा रही है, अगर वो नहीं बनी है एजुकेशन सिस्टम के लिए, अगर वो नहीं कर पा रही है. मैंने कहा सी, ये भी एक दो पॉइंट्स हैं कि वो नहीं कर पा रही है, ये शी इज़ यूनिकली डिज़ाइन फॉर समथिंग एल्स. तो हमारे पास क्या सिस्टम्स हैं अभी कि हम उनको एक डिफरेंट राउट पे जाने के लिए ईजी कर सकें. बिकॉज इन योर केस आई कैन टोटली अंडरस्टैंड इट वॉज अ वेरी रेडिकल डिसीजन विच वॉज वेरी मच बैक्ड बाय विल पावर कि हमें ऑल्टरनेट एजुकेशन सिस्टम में जाना है. जो पेरेंट्स अभी भी फेंस पे हैं और जिनके बच्चे मे बी एवरेज या अंडर परफॉर्मर की ग्रेडिंग में हैं, बिकॉज आई रियली वॉन्ट टू ऑपरेशनलाइज इट, बिकॉज जो भी हम डिस्कशन कर रहे हैं कि उसको हम अपने व्यूअर्स के लिए यूजफुल कैसे बनाएं. सो जो पेरेंट्स अभी भी फेंस पे हैं, जो पेरेंट्स के बच्चों को अंडर परफॉर्मर बता दिया गया है, जो अपने सेल्फ गिल्ट में है ऑफ पेरेंटहुड के मैं अपने बच्चों को क्यों नहीं सर्व कर पा रहा हूँ, कैसे मैं इन्हें ट्यूशन्स लगाऊँ, कैसे मैं इन्हें 4 ट्यूशन करवा दूँ दिन में, और कैसे मैं इन्हें फिजिक्स में अच्छे मार्क्स दिलवा के एक अच्छे IIT की तरफ पुश कर दूँ. जो अभी भी उस रैट रेस में उस बच्चे को पुश कर रहे हैं जो मे बी उस सिस्टम को नहीं परस्यू करना चाहता है, वो कह भी नहीं पा रहा है आपसे. सो वो पेरेंट्स कैसे बेहतर एजुकेशन सिस्टम जो उस बच्चे के करंट कंटेक्स्ट में है, कैसे उसकी तरफ जाएं. एंड सेकेंडली, जो मैंने आपको एग्जांपल दिया, इसमें जब मेरी उनकी मदर से बात हुई, सो शी वाज सेइंग कि फिर वो ये चीज़ें तो नहीं कर पाएगा, फिर ये वाली चीज़ कैसे होगी, फिर वो अपने जो फ्रेंड्स उनसे पीछे हो जाएगा. अगेन द कंपैरिजन काइंड ऑफ अ थिंग. सो द क्वेश्चन इज़ हैविंग 2 पार्ट्स. नंबर 1, वो पेरेंट्स कैसे अपने बच्चों को एक ऑल्टरनेट एजुकेशन सिस्टम की तरफ लेके जाएं. एंड सेकेंडली, वो जो उनका माइंडसेट है कि जब वो उस एजुकेशन सिस्टम की तरफ जा रहे हैं तो एक एंग्जाइटी क्रिएट हो रही है कि जो नॉर्मल है, जो स्टेबल है, जो वेल एक्सेप्टेड है, हम उससे दूर जा रहे हैं. तो उस फीलिंग को कैसे टैकल करें?
So firstly I would say कि अगर logical point of view से देखना है, like you had shared, there are multiple types of intelligence. स्कूल में सिर्फ एक दो को ही कंसिडर किया जाता है. Like if the child passes logical intelligence and some other intelligence तो वो normal होते हैं. Consider the fact that if school is only taking 2 of those intelligences in factor, बाकी जितने भी हैं उनको वो नहीं ले रहे हैं. Who knows, अगर आपको लग रहा है आपका child abnormal है, they're actually excelling at one of the other intelligences. तो ये चीज़ I feel like comparison तभी ख़त्म होएगा जब उन लोग को focus ये जाएगा. If you compare कि a fish can't climb a tree, I think this is a very famous example. If you judge a fish by its ability of climbing a tree, उसको failure का ठप्पा दे दोगे. So why are you doing the same thing to your kids?
Great.
So logically, and the point is अगर आपको लगता है कि आपका बच्चा पीछे ना रह जाए, once you allow them to do what they feel like doing, like to study what they feel like studying, उनको पहले आप उस चीज़ पे align करके लेके आओ कि okay, we know our child is not logically fast, but we know that they're really good at art, they're really good at music, or they're really good at psychology, anything. पहले वो चीज़ फिगर आउट कर ली. लेट्स से इट्स आर्ट, ठीक है, जो इनको फिजिकल वैसे लग रहा है कि ये फेलियर है, बट उन्होंने देखा कि आर्ट में बहुत अच्छा है. नाउ लेट दैट चाइल्ड एक्सप्लोर इन दैट फील्ड. थोड़ा उन्हें अपॉर्चुनिटी तो दो, अभी तक उनको मिला ही नहीं है वो. वंस यू गिव देम दैट ऑप्शन, वंस दे आर परस्यूइंग व्हाट दे वांट टू, मतलब मेन फोकस है कि जो करना है वो परस्यू कर रहे हैं, और साइड फोकस है कि बाकी सबके साथ में. आई डिड द सेम थिंग. माई मेन फोकस वॉज ऑन दी अदर कोर्सेज दैट आई एम डूइंग. माई साइड फोकस वॉज academics so that I'm on the same peer level as everyone else.
That's a very good recipe that you have given, and I am finding a duality in this. जो बच्चे अभी करंट एजुकेशन सिस्टम में हैं, बट दे आर गेटिंग अवेयर कि हम ऐसी चीज़ें भी कर सकते हैं सेल्फ डेवलपमेंट की, वो अपना मेन फोकस अपनी कन्वेंशनल एजुकेशन पर रख सकते हैं, ऑल्टरनेट फोकस अपनी सेल्फ हीलिंग, इमोशनल रेजिलियंस पे कर सकते हैं. सो दे आर इक्वली बीइंग सर्व्ड. जो बच्चे ऑल्टरनेट स्कूलिंग में हैं या होम स्कूलिंग में हैं, वो अपना मेन फोकस उन टॉपिक्स पर रख सकते हैं जो उनको अच्छे लगते हैं, मे बी लॉ ऑफ अट्रैक्शन, हीलिंग, वॉट एवर इट इज़, साइकोलॉजी, और अपना ऑल्टरनेट फोकस उन चीज़ों पर रख सकते हैं जो कि कन्वेंशनल एजुकेशन की तरफ भी उन्हें एट पार लेके आ जाएँ. सो दिस वे जो दोनों बच्चे दोनों स्ट्रीम्स में हैं अपनी यूनिकनेस भी एंजॉय कर सकते हैं, एंड साइड बाय साइड दे कैन एक्सप्लोर अदर एस्पेक्ट्स ऑफ देयर बीइंग, ताकि वो एक होलिस्टिक वे ऑफ एजुकेशन का पार्ट बन सकें. Again, Devina, thanks a lot. As we are ending the first segment, we'll quickly move on to the next segment. Well, Devina, Pradeep ji, we have entered the next part of our podcast. I would like to ask and understand from you, at what point in your life did you feel that the traditional education system wasn't enough for you? What was that point? Maybe an experience, a teacher said something happened. What was that point?
It was when my dad went to the parent-teacher meeting and he saw that kids are being mass-produced. Each child has their own unique ability, and yet they're all following the same process. And by the end of school, when they're looking for a job, the requirements will be to think outside the box.
Wow.
So first they're putting them inside the box, closing the lid, and then they're being presented when people want something out of the box.
Great. So we are first conditioning them to be in a mold, and then when we want the finished product, we are grading them for how open thinker they are, how much of a critical thinker they are.
Exactly.
Which
yes.
is totally like pulling the rope at two different places, like a tug of war.
Right.
Great. Now, what are the biggest fears or resistances you faced internally or from others when you decided to follow your own path? What were those resistances and those fears?
So I used to have the fear, like when I started homeschooling, that I wouldn't fit in with other kids, or I wouldn't be accepted as part of society. But later on, I directed that energy and that concern to actually mastering my craft, whatever that I'm learning. That if I focus on it, and if I completely adhere my focus to what I'm doing and what will be the outcome of that, then I won't have to worry about what people think of me.
Great. Maybe a shift of focus?
Right, a shift of focus.
Great. Awesome. So coming on to the next question, Devina. So, and I really wanted to ask you this. In schools, we are often told what success looks like, right? Success must be maybe grades, a rank, a stable job, admission in a good college. So that is the conventional definition of success in schools. How has your definition of success, your individual definition of success, changed now?
I feel like my definition of success would be if you know how to process and analyze and figure out your emotions, if you know how to deal with them, if you know how to flip your mindset and according to whatever task that you're doing, if you can fix your beliefs and rewire everything inside of you when needed. I think this is what success means, because if you can alter yourself like according to a situation, if I have to study for a certain exam and if I can change my mindset that I have to be fully attentive to this, I feel like this combination will help you succeed in every part of life. So even when you, let's say if you're rich and you're like really successful according to society, but you still can't explain that feeling inside of you, then I don't think that's success.
So maybe success, according to you, is more about that inner congruence.
Yes.
And that ability to have not a control, but how you can actually deal with your mind, with your emotions, in whatever context you are. So whatever what you choose to do, you will be successful. You will be happy.
Absolutely.
You will be fulfilled because you have that command over your agencies of mind, body, and emotions, for that matter.
Absolutely.
And how nice life would be if we make our children have that command on their emotions, not be reactive but responsive. That could be a very good definition of success, Devina.
Right.
Great. Do you believe do you believe that every young person learns differently? If yes, how do you think the education system can be adapted to individual needs?
I do believe that every child learns on their own pace and their own methods. Some children like theory more, some children like practical more. I feel like changing the entire education system for this would be a little tricky because every child has their own like personality. But the best option that we can do is give them options. If a child likes to study more in theory, if they like to study certain subjects, giving them the option to choose that instead of giving them these set personas that if you have these three streams, you have to choose one of them, and based on that your personality will be built. So I think the best option here is that give them options. And as a parent, other than the schooling system, give your children the resources that they can start learning the way they want to.
Wow, to giving them more options so that they can choose the things they like.
Right.
And this can really help them be more, do more, and have more from life. Great, awesome. And what do you think are some outdated assumptions that adults make about their teenagers? Because we often see that we have a mindset that teenagers are irresponsible, they're totally distracted. So what, according to you, are some of the outdated assumptions about the current day teenagers?
I think the biggest like assumption about teenagers is that they are reactive. That like they're snapping back or ulta bol rahe hain, ye sab cheez. I think, and majority of Indian parents would relate to this, that they get really upset when their teen child starts to rebel or वो उल्टा जवाब देने लगता है. That isn't out of disrespect. It's because at that point of life, we're figuring out ourselves. That what emotions do we have. When we are younger, we only know sadness, happiness, boredom. As soon as you hit like this stage of puberty and teenage years, you're processing a lot of emotions. You're figuring out, okay, what is guilt, what is peer pressure, what is the constant comparison, all of that. So not everything is directed towards the parents. It's just us figuring out stuff.
Wow.
And you can't expect us to know everything from the start.
Awesome. And here comes the importance of that emotion alchemy, understanding our own emotions and having that awareness of our mind, body, and soul, which can be the leveraging point with regards to figuring ourselves out, and parents not judging or assuming things about teenagers, rather helping them figure out their own emotions.
Absolutely. And even when it comes to helping, if the parents are like too persistent on helping, let's say if I'm a child and I'm feeling upset or angry about something, yet my parents are telling me you should not be feeling like that.
Yeah.
So that way, once again, you're not helping them learn, you're forcing them to learn a pattern.
Why are you feeling sad?
Exactly.
Why are you not happy? So forcing emotions onto the child, either to get into or come out of, rather than giving them their own sweet time and their own agency to handle that, is a sure shout. I mean, rather than doing that, we can have more empowering things to pursue. Yep.
Right. And I feel like forcing emotions is like one of the worst things a parent could do. Because what happens there is, at one point, the child will be frustrated and they'll be like, okay, fine, you want me to be happy, I'll be happy. But at that point, that child is shutting off their emotional system. Then they want process emotions again. Then when they grow up, they'll be that sort of adult who never opens up.
Great. And this gets me into an awareness. Many times parents will take their children on international holidays and they will click the pictures. And when the child will not smile in the picture, they will even scold the child. Why are you not smiling? So much money has been invested. We will never bring you again. So, I mean, we want our children to be like puppets. We switch on, they should be happy. We switch off, they should be sad. I mean, they should come back to normal. They should not be overly happy in the school because they have to be disciplined. So, the child becomes a puppet. And we want the child to emote as per our own liking. Again, throwing the child first in a box and then expecting the child to come out of box at our own will. So I guess this kind of parenting and education should definitely change for good.
And you know what's the worst part of this? If a child grows up with that sort of environment where parents are like, one click, you're happy, one click, you're normal. Once they grow up and once their parents stop controlling them, at that point they won't know how to control their own emotions. So somehow they'll be put in a situation कि वो सेम चीज़ अब उनका बॉस कर रहा होगा
Wow.
या उनका पार्टनर कर रहा होगा या कोई और भी कर रहा होगा because they never learned how to process, they never learned how to feel and then fix.
They didn't have the emotion alchemy.
Right.
Because had they been having that emotion alchemy, the control or the chariot of their the reins of the horses of their emotions would have been with them. और वो बेहतर तरीके से कंट्रोल कर सकते थे अपने आप को. तो उन्हें एक आउटसाइड अथॉरिटी नहीं चाहिए थी अपने आप को मैनेज करने के लिए. एंड यू राइटली सेड, अभी पेरेंटल फिगर्स है, फिर बॉसेस होंगे, फिर टॉक्सिक रिलेशनशिप्स हो सकते हैं जिसमें हर कोई उन्हें बताएगा कि उन्हें कैसे फील करना है या नहीं फील करना है. एंड दैट्स अ वेरी unresourceful state to be in and living life from that standpoint, I believe.
Right.
Now, Devina, what role emotions play in your daily productivity, learning and creativity?
I think one of my daily things that I do is if I'm feeling an emotion, I feel it. This seems like a normal sentence, but it isn't. If you're feeling an emotion, feel it. If I'm feeling sad, I would allow myself to feel sad. If I want to feel like crying, I will cry. At that point, I won't care if my parents think, why are you crying? Why are you so weak? But if I feel like doing it, I will. Because only after I've processed it entirely, then I'll know how to fix it. And I feel like this, if I would be sad about something, and I'll be like, okay, no, कोई नहीं, ऐसे नहीं behave करना चाहिए, चलो काम कर लेते हैं. मेरा productivity बहुत ज़ोर से गिरेगा. But if I process that emotion, feel it completely, then fix it. ऐसा क्यों हुआ, मैं ऐसे दोबारा कैसे नहीं करूँगी. Fix करने के बाद में if I start working, I'll obviously be more productive because I don't have that weight on my mind.
Great. So you mean to say that जो हमें इमोशंस के लिए जज किया जाता है कई बार पेरेंट्स के द्वारा या टीचर्स के द्वारा, सपोज समबडी इज़ क्राइंग इन द स्कूल और बैक होम, तो वी समहाउ मेक फन, शेम मत रो, लोगों के सामने मत रो. सो कहीं ना कहीं जब कुछ इमोशंस को लेके हमारे अंदर एक शेमफुलनेस डाल दी जाती है जिसकी वजह से हम एक्सप्रेस नहीं कर पाते अपने आप को प्रॉपरली. एंड यू बाय वर्च्यू ऑफ अलाउइंग योर सेल्फ टू फील दोज इमोशंस इन दैट मोमेंट इज़ बीइंग कॉन्ग्रुएंट विद देम, सो दैट आप कुछ हाइड नहीं कर रहे हो, आप कुछ इमोशंस को रिप्रेस नहीं कर रहे हो अपने अंदर. So do you feel that this really helps you being productive and living life even more authentically?
This helps me, and it's not like, let's say if I'm in a public space and I'm feeling some emotion, it's not like I will have a full-on meltdown then. It's just that पहले मैंने उस चीज़ को इतना process और इतना fix कर लिया है कि now I know what to do exactly when I'm feeling some certain type of way.
आप उन इमोशंस को एक्चुअली एक्सेप्ट करके प्रोसेस करना सीख गए हो,
हाँ.
rather than getting jittery and having the tendency to run away from those emotions.
Right, because the more you suppress your emotions, I mean, you can look at boys. हमेशा लड़कों को बोला जाता है ना कि
Men don't cry.
Men don't cry.
हाँ.
What ends up? वो फिर
And what if the man wants to cry?
Exactly, and if they don't feel that उनको कभी processing ही सिखाया नहीं, so then all of those pent up emotions they turn into anger, and then the concept of toxic masculinity begins.
Then we
So
should
it's
say,
such a big cycle, but nobody is aware of it.
so
Why?
men should cry if they want to cry,
They
right?
should. That's called being healthy.
being healthy. Great. So Devina, have you ever experienced a limiting belief? Maybe I'm not good enough, and maybe people are judging me. Did you have any moment when you actually had a limiting belief?
I would have the limiting belief that I won't fit in with people.
You won't fit in with people.
Right. I mean, I experienced that quite early in my homeschooling journey, that people had already like started distinguishing me from normal kids. So I used to have that fear. I would even talk to my mom sometimes about it, that what if I'm not able to make a conversation with my peers?
And how did you come out of that limiting belief? What mental tools or tools from emotion alchemy you use, by the way?
I just told myself that I'm still a normal human being. The only difference is that I chose something different to study. I chose something else to focus on. And if I'm focusing on something, I'm excelling at it. So there's nothing wrong with me. It's just I'm doing something different, but I'm still a human, and people will accept me for who am I, for my personality, for the kind of friend that I am.
Great. And you would have gotten these resources to arrive at this mental and emotional understanding because you were homeschooling and you were connected with yourself. तो क्योंकि आप अपने आप से कनेक्टेड हैं, तभी आप इस तरीके से उस सिचुएशन को हैंडल करके उन लिमिटिंग बिलीव्स को ट्रांसेंड कर पा रहे हैं. ग्रेट. डू यू फील दैट सोशल मीडिया helps or hurts the journey of becoming your true self? Because see, social media एक चैनल ऑफ सेल्फ एक्सप्रेशन भी है, लोग अपने आप को एक्सप्रेस करते हैं. सोशल मीडिया पे एक फियर ऑफ मिसिंग आउट भी हो सकता है, बिकॉज यू विल ऑलवेज फाइंड समबडी हु इज अपियरिंग टू बी बेटर, परफेक्ट, गॉड लाइक. सो डू यू फील दैट इट हेल्प्स और हर्ट्स द जर्नी ऑफ बिकमिंग योर ट्रू सेल्फ?
If you're a creator on social media, you can definitely help other people, because there's all sorts of content. It's just that you can choose to make good type of content that actually helps people. As a consumer, firstly, social media is not real. जितना भी कुछ लोग पोस्ट करते हैं, people posting that they've got such perfect lives and such perfect vacations, वो 4 साल पहले की फ़ोटो भी डाल देंगे, लोगों को लगेगा कि they're living life. Secondly, now because attention span वगैरह हमारा बहुत ज़्यादा कम हो रहा है सोशल मीडिया की वजह से. If you're scrolling, mindful scrolling is the term, but even in that, when we're scrolling a lot, हम बस अपने दिमाग को information दे रहे हैं. And then our brain receptors, they're taking all of that information, and then they'll crave less of knowledge. So instead of focusing all on scrolling reels, pick up a book or read something else, ताकि आप अपने brain को वो knowledge भी देते रहो. I'm not saying entirely cut out social media. Maybe that's not possible for people, but maintain a balance.
Maintain a balance. The balancing is the key.
Right.
Great. And do you feel that mainstream education gives enough space to develop your spiritual, emotional, mental and physical aspects, or it is just focused on the mental development?
As a parent, if your child is still going to school and you want to give them that sort of education, they can do it alongside. But if you're dependent entirely on the school system itself, I think not. Then you're only focusing on mental stuff. But as a parent who wants to help their child grow emotionally, spiritually, you can do it alongside school. You don't have to particularly homeschool for that.
Great. So we can have them enrolled in maybe alternative programs?
Obviously, yeah. So homeschooling is because you need extra time, but even if you're a normal child who's going to school and tuitions and everything, alternative programs do help. Like, कुछ हद तक तो आपको awareness आ जाता है.
Great.
So, yeah. Great.
And have you ever felt misunderstood by teachers or parents just because you wanted to do something unconventional?
Right, huh. After I left school, I was doing some courses. Some of the mentors, they thought that I'm too young to understand this. But like you shared, there are just some children who get spirituality or who get some certain topics instantly, and some kids will never understand it. So I feel like I knew, despite all of their education system stuff, they're still somehow taking out time to pursue what they like to do. If you're an artist but you're having 10th exams, still give yourself the time to keep that artist in yourself alive. If you don't do that, you're going far from your true self, and that's not going to help you perform better.
Great. So having that passion alive and connection with the true self.
Right.
Great. What tools or habits have you developed in your journey of self-growth?
I think the tools that I've learned is mainly on my mindset, how I can change my mindset to whatever stuff that I'm doing, learning about my emotions, learning about my energy and how can I protect it, because sometimes when you have to face a lot of people and when you have to take care of your health and everything starts from energy. So if you understand that, you're understanding all areas of your life. So you can say that I have learned tools in all 4 areas of life. So if I'm using them all together practically to do my studies or build my business, it's really working out well.
Great. And do you think there should be a subject in schools that teaches life skills, mindset, and how to deal with uncertainty and failure?
Absolutely. I mean, unless the education system wants kids to be mass produced, this should definitely be a norm by now. Especially with AI growing, we know intelligence can be found in like 2 clicks of a button. At that point, this is more needed than ever.
Great. When you were younger, did you ever feel the pressure to fit in instead of being yourself?
Yeah, I did. Like when I saw these other kids, I did. When I saw these other kids get away from me, I wanted to go back. I wanted to fit in again. But somehow I just told myself, okay, once again, shift of focus. There's great things in life. There could be 99 good things, and we get sad over that one thing. It's mainly about shift in focus. That, okay, whatever I have, I'm content with it. I'm focusing my energy on what I'm doing, and that will provide results, and the results will provide answers to everyone.
So, Devina, what does learning mean to you beyond the textbooks and exams?
For me, learning is when I'm practically seeing experiences of stuff happening. As a homeschooled kid, I got to be around with my parents a lot. So I would see real life experiences, like people having a conversation or something or the other. Instead of just reading something theoretically in textbooks, I saw it practically, and I feel like that engaged all of my senses into that one thing, and I was able to derive more knowledge out of an experience than an article about it.
Great. And what does purpose mean to you at this stage in life?
Purpose, once again, it comes with intuition. If I'm doing something and I feel like this isn't going to work for me, I feel uncomfortable doing this, then you know it's not for you. But if you're doing something which feels like flow and ease, then that's your purpose. Purpose never feels like pressured or like hard and fast. It feels like music.
Wow. When you feel most authentic and connected to self when you're living your purpose.
Right.
Great. And how do you handle failures or setbacks on your journey?
I have had quite some of them. And at that point, what I do is I let myself process that emotion. Just because I have learned all of these tools doesn't mean that I have to stay happy all the time.
Wow.
So I let myself cry. I let myself like face every single emotion. I don't like this. I don't like it. I let myself face it. I won't lie to myself about it. After that's done, then I can think with a clear mind, okay, how can I avoid this? How can I make this situation better for next time?
Great, great. How can parents and teachers support teenagers better in today's fast changing world? How can they support them?
Firstly, make an actual effort to understand your teenager, because at that stage, even parents think that they're rebelling, but they're really just figuring out stuff. So let them be, and let yourself understand them. Have an actual conversation with them instead of just controlling over them. That's what I would say.
Great. And observing them, how they are feeling and how they are
Right.
having the experience of life. Yep. If you could redesign the education system or the schooling system from scratch, what would it look like? The Devina's way of creating the education system.
I'd firstly teach them about all of their inner tools, their belief, their emotions, their mindset, the types of intelligences, the ways they can grow. And after I've given them all of the tools, like the Brahmastra, after that I will introduce them to studying conventional subjects. And I'm actually working on this project. After giving them those tools, then they can start learning conventional subjects from teachers who are aligned with the same purpose. So it's an entirely like closed system where the teachers are also aware how to talk to the kids, how they can nurture that that yearning of education within the child.
Is it some sort of a modern Gurukul?
Bingo.
Wherein the children are first having that awareness of their inner resources, the emotion alchemy, and then you have teachers in that ecosystem who are aligned with their authentic self, with their purposes. As you said, that the teachers who were in the past Gurukul system were having much more spiritual orientation and intuition, so that they could actually have that inner eye to look what the child wants. A modern Gurukul kind of a setting.
Absolutely.
So with that, we have come to the end of this podcast, this amazing podcast, I must say. And thanks a lot to Pradeep ji and Devina for gracing our podcast with all the nice and amazing awarenesses that we have got this time. And I would really thank Pradeep ji for the kind of person he is and the spirituality that you embody and that authenticity that you exude. And I could actually feel very a sort of a high energy in your presence. And let me compliment you, Devina, that by virtue of Pradeep ji being your father, you have already gotten that vibrational shift with regards to your choices. And let me compliment you again for your own individual accomplishments, because at such a young age, when I listen to words like purpose, mission, business and projects, I'm doing some projects at 18 years of age, when many of the teenagers are just still figuring out life and trying to undo the horrors of conventional education system, which might have happened to them. It's a treat for all spiritual, emotional, and mental and physical dimensions, so to speak. And you being the mascot, you being that example, that homeschooling, living authentically, and pursuing your own dreams can lead to far, far, far better results, so to speak, as compared to just following the conventional education system for the sake of following the conventional education system. So thanks a lot for doing what you are doing. You are a lighthouse for so many people, so many students whose dreams and authenticity might be dying down by the labeling of the teachers or their parents, well-intentioned teachers and parents who label them to be average performers, to be slow, to be a failure, so to speak. So thanks a lot for being the guiding light for all those students. I totally understand you had your own share of challenges. You had your own share of maybe self-limiting beliefs when you were embarking on this journey. But I see it from the spiritual light that maybe you are the chosen one to let the light of divine pass through you to millions of people. So thanks a lot for coming on the podcast, Devina and Pradeep ji. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for
Thank you so
hosting
much.
us here.